Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Master Gardener program, the Spotted Lanternfly. It's still here. I'm Dina Henchen, Adult Services Librarian at Gum Spring Library, and your host today. Please feel free to send your comments and questions during the program by using the chat feature, and they will be relayed to Beth during and after the program. Beth Sastre is the commercial horticulturist for the Loudoun Extension Services Virginia Cooperative Extension. Beth is originally from Mexico and has obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in agronomy with a minor in horticulture and a master's degree in human nutrition and post-harvest physiology. In 1999, Beth came to the USA, and for 10 years she worked as a full-time mom and then started a gardening business. In February 2013, she joined the Loudoun County government, where her work experience includes, but is not limited to, horticulture, propagation, entomology, fungi, microbiology, post-harvest physiology, extension, and educational programs. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Dina. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I would like to introduce Becky Hutchings. Also, she's a Master Gardener volunteer and has always been helping me with spiral lanternflies. As Dina said, the topic today is about spiral lanternfly, and I titled it "Hard to See, but the spiral lanternfly is still here." This is the second video or second presentation that we do in collaboration with Master Gardeners and the Loudoun County Public Library. If you haven't seen the first one, I highly recommend you to see the first one because there are many things that we are not going to be talking today about spiral lanternflies that are on the first video. I would like to recognize that this presentation is it was compiled, or I compiled it from other presentations from Eric Day, Dr. Doug Pfeiffer, and publications from Pennsylvania State University. And the pictures are from Mark Southing, Eric Day, and Doug Pfeiffer, and we all work for Virginia Tech and Virginia Cooperative Extension. If you have any questions or comments during my presentation, please feel free to ask, or you can also type them on the chat, and Becky is going to help me to answer. So as an introduction, I work for the Department of Extension Services, and also is known as Virginia Cooperative Extension, Loudoun. We have 4 areas of education: agricultural and natural resources, 4-H youth development, family and consumer science, and community development. So if you ever have questions about any of these topics, please feel free to reach out to us. As a summary, so we call spiral lanternfly, we abbreviated SLF. We are going to talk a little bit about its biology, the preferred plants and host, egg mass identification. I was very excited when I look at all the pictures that we have collected. So you will have many of those, you will see many of those, and we are going to be practicing. Management, we are going to talk a little bit about integrated pest management and growing degree days, and a little bit of quarantine. So spiral lanternfly is a plant hopper. It feeds from the sap of the plants. It does not suck the sap of the plants because it doesn't have the muscles to do so. So usually spiral lanternflies will look for plants that are healthy because the flow of the nutrients and the water in those plants is very healthy. So there's a very good pressure on those, and as soon as they puncture with the mouth part into the bark of the plants or the branches, they can get that pressure or that sap through the pressure of the plants. So this is originally from China, and then was found in Pennsylvania in 2014, and then in Virginia for the first time in 2018 in Winchester, and then for the first time last year here in Loudoun County. Females are about 1 inch long, or I'm sorry, adults are about 1 inch long. And then each female can lay down between 2 and 3 egg masses. Each egg mass can have about 50 eggs. And the egg masses are about 1 inch long as well. After they hatch, you will see 3 different nymphal stages that are the same color, different size, and they are going to be black with a white dots, and the size of these can be up to 3/8 of an inch. And then we have the 4 nymphal stage. This is going to be red with black and white dots. When they are on these stages, nymphal stages, usually they stay on the same plants, and these plants are mostly herbaceous because they don't have a hard bark and they can puncture with the mouth part easily. But as soon as they start maturing, or being on the 4th stage and start maturing to go to the adult states, they start spreading to different type of plants. So usually people start seeing them when they are on the 4 nymphal stage, which is the red, because this is a very colorful and attractive color, and that's when people start reporting it. Then they will they go through a metamorphosis, and this is to go from different stages till they reach adult stage. So you will see on the lower right side one nymph that is in the 4th stage going through adulthood. And then the egg masses, you are going to start seeing them from middle of September all the way to middle of May. So right now is time to see the egg masses. Then you are going to, nymphs are start hatching from middle April to the end of August. And then you're going to see the adults from July to middle of November. So these are all the signs that you can see from spiral lanternfly. And as I said, they feed from the sap of the plants. And the sap of the plants is very sweet. So when they are feeding from that, and they feed a lot, they are excreting that, and it's called honeydew. And as the name say, honeydew is sweeter, is concentrated. And so this starts cover every surface when, underneath the canopy where the spiral lanternfly is. And after they cover the surface, you're going to see something developing that is black color, and we call it a sooty mold. And what happened is that honeydew is being colonized by a fungi and some bacteria, which later on is going to turn white, and also yeast, and you're going to start smelling that fermentation. So you will see all these pictures. The first picture here, you have the honeydew, and then sooty mold on this trunk, and then you have some fermentation. You can see some fermentation here. Here's a combination of sooty mold, honeydew, and on this tree, you see the base is all fermented. And here you have some, you can see some honeydew that is just coming out of the tree after a heavy infestation. You can see all the base of this forest area covered with a sooty mold. This is a picture, very cool picture that Mark Sutphin in Frederick County took. And as you see, this is a black locust, and next is the tree of heaven, which is the main host. And all these black thing that you see here is the sooty mold that is covering the scar. So what are the key plant hosts of spiral lanternfly during the growing season? So we have several of these, and we have the rose, grapes, tree of heaven, black walnut, butternut, river ridge, willow, sumac, and silver and red maple. And you can see that when they are names, they prefer some of them, and then when they are adults, they will prefer something different. I will say, when they are names, as I mentioned, they will stay in specific plants and mainly herbaceous. Sometimes they fall off the plants because they haven't developed their claw-like appendage. But then when they are adults, they can move very fast and climb up the trees. Also, I will add to this one plantain, the broad leaf plantain. I saw it here in Loudoun County, and mainly it was when they were in the first and second nymphal stage. Virginia creeper, they love Virginia creeper when they are nymphs, meaning the first, second, third, and fourth stage, and also the black locust. So these are the host plants that Mark Sutphin and Dr. Pfeiffer, which is the entomologist in Virginia from Virginia Tech, they look at all the plants that have hosted spiral lanternfly here in Virginia, and they have found a lot of them, and in average is about 100 plants that they will feed on. And then these are the ones that are preferred by the nymphs. So if you have any of these plants, there is a high possibility that you may see spiral lanternfly there. The E after each plant means that they found eggs on those plants, but they are not specific to those. It was just like a more prevalent. So we are going to talk a little bit about phenology, and phenology is the different stages of development of living organisms. And it is influenced by the environment. In this case, will be the weather and the topography. And we said that for spiral lanternfly to hatch, they need 200-degree days. And then I'm gonna explain what degree days is at the end. For the adults, they saw them emerging around 1120 hours degree 10. I'm sorry, 1,120 growing degree days, and the first egg mass was about 3,000 growing degree days. And you can see also, it matches the months that of the year that I showed before. And one thing that I would like to mention, why I'm talking about growing degree days. This is a very specific number of days that we can follow up for the development of plants and insects. So in farming, this is important because we can predict when the main pest will appear, and also we know when plants will go from one stage to the other, and we can then modify or wait for planting or grow plants indoor and then transplant them. So that is very important for a farmer. Dispersal. So nymphs can jump from host to host, but they don't move a lot by themselves. It's the same with adults. Adults can fly a little bit, but the migration will depend on the type of food that is around them. In Virginia, there was 70 days before first observed adult and first observed egg mass. So it's about 2 months when you see the first adult and then you start seeing egg masses. Individually, a spiral lanternfly can move between 3 or 4 miles, but as a group, as an infestation, it can be around 10 miles per year. But that is just by themselves. The main problem is hitchhiking. And this is caused by us. We can move it from one state to the other, from one country to another country, and that's how it came. All of them are very good hitchhikers, and the big problem is that spiral lanternfly can lay down egg masses everywhere. Anything that is outdoors, they will lay down egg masses. So this is something we started seeing in Frederick. It was Winchester, and it was like about 3 days after the first spiral lanternfly small infestation was detected. So you can see how they conglomerate in one place, and then they start feeding, and they lay down egg masses in one place as well. So they can accumulate those year by year. Here you can see on the upper left spiral lanternfly egg masses that are weathered and are cracked. And this is, after the environment starts, they lay them in eggs, and then after the environment, the cold, the cold, the water, sun starts cracking that, and that is something that once they lay down the eggs, they cover the eggs, and this is a mud-like substance. On the lower picture on your left, you can see exposed spiral lanternfly egg masses. And then on your right, you can see an egg mass that has been covered erratically. And usually what researchers have seen is that, at the end of the um, life, at the end of the life of the adults, they don't have enough substance to cover the egg masses. So you will see some egg masses that are not totally covered. So on this picture, we can see different uh, egg masses that were laid down maybe 2 years ago. So the fresh, the fresh one always looks like a very, first is white, very vibrant, and then you will see, and it starts changing color after that. Then you're gonna see, you see underneath the fresh one, you see one that is already hatched. And one of the things that if you like to observe insects, you will see this: the the openings of these egg masses are it's like a vertical cut. If you see an egg mass or egg that have a hole, that is not an spiral lanternfly that hatched from that. That means that that egg was parasitized for a wasp, and is super tiny. And what happens is the wasp goes to the egg and deposit eggs there. And then in this case, this specific wasp has the characteristic that can reproduce. That egg is going to reproduce in more eggs, and sometimes they start feeding from other egg masses of a spiral lanternfly, and then they will hatch. And then the lower part, you will see an egg mass that is older, and you see the color is dull, it's not that vibrant. And sometimes it seems like the egg masses mimic the color of the surfaces where they are laid down. Here, you can see another egg mass. On the left, the upper part, there are eggs that were already hatched, and then on the lower part, there is an egg mass that the eggs are beneath that mud-like substance, but is already weathered. And then on the right side, you will see a mix of older egg masses with fresh, which haven't been hatched, which hasn't been hatched. I'm sorry. Here is another spiral lanternfly egg mass on black locust, and this was a fresh one. It was very cool to see it. It was the first time that I saw a fresh egg mass, and it was in Winchester. So as I mentioned, sometimes the egg masses color are mimic the color of the surfaces, and they are very cryptic. Because also it's hard to distinguish between the lichen of the plants, and some plants have some spots that look like those. So you need a trained eye for that. And you can see where the arrows are showing spiral lanternflies egg masses, that if I don't have the arrows, you will not see them. And you have seen this is how they look up close. Here we have more egg masses. You can see on the picture of your left many egg masses in one small space, part of the tree. Usually they lay down the eggs on areas that are not directly exposed to the sun. So they are on the branches, or the lower part of the branches, and that makes them difficult to see them as well. As I said, you need a trained eye to do it. And then you can see on the upper left, on the bark, there are two spiral lanternfly egg masses that will be really hard to identify if you don't have experience with this. Here, these pictures were taken by Mark Sutphin. He has a lot of patience because he was waiting for them to hatch. So you can see the tiny spiral lanternflies. They don't have color. They belong to the same family than cicadas. So they go through the same stage. They have to wait a little bit to start taking the color and changing. So on the picture of your left, you can see how many masses are on those branches, and they are on the canopy, higher canopy of the tree. Then on the picture of your right, you will see that a trunk that is covered with a sooty mold, and also all the egg masses, fresh and all egg masses. And if you see on the back of that picture, you will see other trees, and especially Tree of Heavens, that have a black color, and that is a sign for you. So if you have forest area and you start walking and you see trees that are very dark black color, look for spiral lanternflies. In this case, look for the egg masses, because I'm pretty sure they will be there. There is also another disease or insect that is attacking some of the trees, and is oh my god, I forgot the name. It's a scale and it's black. I will remember and I will tell you later. But usually on these areas now is going to be if there is a forest area and you see the black trunks on the trees, look for the spiral lanternfly. So as I mentioned before, spiral lanternfly like to lay down egg masses in areas that are not very exposed to the sun. And on the picture of your left, you see on the lower area an egg mass, and it's hard to look for them, and it's tiring because you have to be all the way looking up, and then magnifying. I'm sorry. If you have binoculars, that will help you a lot. Then on the picture of your lower left, you have another spiral egg mass that some of them already hatch. This is an old one, and not all of them hatch, and that may happen as well. But on the picture of your right, you can see all the egg masses and laying down on the lower part of the branch. And trees are not the only ones that are that the spiral lanternfly lay down egg masses. As I said, everything that is kept outside is a very good area for spiral lanternflies to lay down the egg masses. As I said, all the stages are can hitchhike. On the picture in the middle, where you see this metal surface, and you see all these spiral lanternflies, they are not dead. That is the exoskeleton. So they were changing from nymphs and in this case, third stage, nymphal stage to the fourth stage. And then you can see, you know, on this wood palette, there are also a lot of spiral Lanternfly egg masses, and on these playgrounds, plastic that was kept outside, also many egg masses. And this is just another set of pictures where you can see them metal, on rocks, rusted metal, they love it. Then also tires. I don't have a picture of tires, but they will lay down egg masses on tires. So now that you have seen spiral Lanternfly egg masses, I'm going to take you to a virtual trip to train your eye. I'm going to be showing pictures. I'm going to leave them a little bit, and then I'm going to be pointing out to the egg masses. Hopefully, you find the ones that I pointed out.
Hey Beth, we have a question. If you
Go
want to
ahead.
take a minute.
Sure.
Why do spotted lanternflies like to lay their eggs on the underside of branches?
That will be because they are protected. Researchers have found, you know, when they are exposed directly to the sun, they can dehydrate it. And I'm going to show some pictures of the eggs. So they try to protect them by not letting them directly exposed to the sun. Because remember, when they lay down the eggs, the trees are going to be losing the leaves. So they are going to be more exposed to the environment than if they lay them down on the lower part of the branches. Okay, so if there is no other question, I will continue. So go ahead.
I'm sorry, I've got one more that just popped up right before you said that. Can eggs hatch after 1 year, or 2 years later?
No, as I mentioned, eggs need certain growing degree days, and I'm going to explain that at the end, in order to hatch. And growing degree days is just the amount of temperature accumulation during certain period of time. And when they reach that temperature, which is heat, is when they are going to hatch. So if they didn't hatch that year, it means that they are not viable for next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if you saw this one and this one and this one, you are learning to identify egg masses. Next one. Okay, we have a new one here. And then we have 1, 2, 3 that are already weathered, and you know the mud-like substance is already cracked. What about here? A new one here and old ones here. In fact, this is the first one was a close-up. So this one is a close-up of this one. And this is a trunk of a tree. What about here? So this is a bark that is peeling out from here. And then you can see this one and then this one. And they are new. Different color, but they are, you know, recently laid down. What about here? And imagine you are in the forest and you are looking down and up everywhere. So here you're going to have an old one, and then here's a new one. And you can see all the spots that the bark has. Sometimes it's hard to identify them, especially when they are surrounded by lichen. Here, So the whole underneath of this whole branch, you can see them. And I will say this is an infestation of about 3-4 years. So we are not close to this one. Or well, maybe we will start seeing it this year. What about here? So we have old ones on this area of the rusted metal. And then we have new ones here, 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 and here, or here, here. And this is just on concrete next to a metal. What about here? So this is an old site of a silo. You can see here, here, these areas. What about here? There's one here. And probably more inside, but it's hard to see. Here. We have them on this side. What about here? Can you see them? And this is a wild grape, which is the second favorite host of them. So this is an old one. And here is another one. What about here? Here it is. And this is a picnic table. And you can see more here, all this area. What about this? Are these two spiral lanternfly egg masses? So this is the spiral lanternfly egg mass. And this is a wheel bug egg mass. And these are predatory, which may eat spiral lanternfly, but also other insects that are not and that are beneficial. But these can help us also to control, not right now because the population is low, but it's important to differentiate spiral lanternfly egg masses because we don't want to smash egg masses that belong to the beneficial insects. And for that, we have publications that can help us to identify different type of egg masses. Just go to the Master Gardeners, Loudoun County Master Gardeners website, or also Virginia Tech spiral lanternfly. So this is the wheel bug, and as I said, they can eat many type of insects. So what about on this one? Can you see the egg masses? Is there something else? So on this one, we have this whole area, which may be different egg masses. Then we have another one here, another one here, this one that are already hatched. And then we have this one, which is the Carolina praying mantis egg mass. And this is to show you most of the pictures that I show were taken from this area. And this area is in Winchester and is next to a railroad. So as I mentioned, spiral lanternfly is great at hitchhiking, and railroads and trains are very good for that because they move. So you saw that they lay down eggs on rusted metal. So they can lay down eggs there, and then the train goes everywhere, in many areas, and then they hatch and they start populating other areas.
Do you have time for a couple of questions?
Yes.
Becky's answering a few, but then I've got a few more that have come in, so I wanted to try and make sure we answer folks' questions.
Go ahead.
What other types of natural predators exist that eat spotted lanternflies?
Well, people have seen, or there are some reports of birds. Um, Chickens are good at that. One of the problems is that spotted lanternfly feeds on tree of heaven. That is the main host. Tree of heaven has alkaloids, and which alkaloids, when they feed from that, the sap of those trees, those alkaloids make them be untasteful. So many different insects and small mammals can try them, but they will not like them. Uh, I I spoke with a farmer that said that her chickens love them, so that's good, but not, it takes them time to adapt to the flavor. So we don't have a lot of predators that can eat them. We have parasitoids, which is a tiny wasp, and is being studied. It's not released. I think we already, I read that we already have them in nature and in our environment, but is being studied. And then there is also a fungi that can parasitize them, but is not widely spread. It needs specific temperature and humidity to do that, and is being researched as well.
Okay. What is the beneficial bug Beth pointed out the egg mass of before? I'm not quite sure which that is, but maybe you know.
That is the wheel bug. Wheel
Okay.
bug. Mhm.
Let's see. And then another, let's see. Uh, I
I
guess
also, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I also mentioned the praying mantis, Carolina praying mantis. So those two egg masses were the one that I showed.
Okay, I think you can go on now. Becky's been answering some questions, and I think that we're caught up for the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about growing degree days or heat units. So these are used to estimate the phenology of certain crops and insects, and I will say many crops and insects. And it is the average accumulation of temperatures since the moment that the new year starts. This includes a base temperature for each organism. And this means is that each one of the living organisms that we use growing degree days, has a lower temperature at which their development stops or start. So when we know what is the base temperature of each organism or the organism that we are studying, we can calculate the growing degree days to be prepared for them when they start in this case, affecting crops or, affecting your plants. And the first thing is, this is the formula: growing degree days is equals the maximum temperature plus the minimum temperature divided by 2, and that will be the average. And then you would subtract the base temperature of each living organism that we are looking for their growing degree days. So at the beginning of the presentation, I have a slide where it says to hatch, for the eggs to hatch, we need 200 degree days, which is about late April. But based on climate change, we have seen them on the second week of April. So, it's not the month, but the accumulation of heat during certain period of time. So adults are going to be about 1,120 growing degree days, and then the first egg masses will appear about 3,000 growing degree days. So imagine for farmers, every day to calculate that growing degree days, they have to accumulate. Every day they have to do that and then accumulate. And then when they reach the 200, so now, or when they are in 115, they will say, okay, so maybe in 2 days we are going to have this disease, this insect that is going to happen, that is going to be affecting my crops. So I'm going to be prepared for this. But it's a lot of work. So calculating that every day is a lot of work. Oh, and the other thing is the base temperature for spiral lanternfly is 10.4 degrees Celsius. So I have an example here, and let's say, today the high temperature was 27 Celsius. The low temperature was 16 Celsius. And the base temperature for spiral lanternfly, we know, is 10.4 Celsius. So if we follow up the formula, we are going to know that today the growing degree days is 11.1. And let's say, we know that it's 11.1, the temperature keep rising, so we can predict or forecast when the hatching the egg hatching can happen, but we need to do that every day just to be sure. So as I said, doing this every day it takes time. And you have to do it for example, farmers have to do it for each crop, for each pest that their crops may have. So there are already some websites where different universities are working together, and they have that information, and they can predict when different diseases or insects can happen. In this case, we have a Pennsylvania State University created this spiral lanternfly percentage hatch, and it's just for Pennsylvania and Virginia right now. And on the lower part, you see a graph with different colors. So this one, I just took it today. And of course, there is 0% of hatch because we haven't reached 200 degrees growing degree days. But as soon as the degree days start accumulating, you are going to see changes in color of this map, which represent the probability of the percentage of hatching on these two states, Virginia and Pennsylvania. And if you want to see this, you just go to spiral lanternfly hatch PCT 2022 Pennsylvania, and you will find it.
Beth, I've got a question. Does this mean that one calendar day can have more than one GDD?
One calendar day. Yes. It depends on the temperature. So for example, we saw when I gave the example for spiral lanternfly, at that time, the average and the minimum temperature, let me just go back.
I think it's only one.
So you said one day may have more than 1 growing degree days? Yes. So for example, on this, I said today, we have the highest temperature, we have the lowest temperature, and we have the base. With that, we calculate the average, which is 21.5. And then from that, we are going to extract the base temperature for spiral lanternfly, which is 10.4. So if we do that, we are going to say, we say we have on today, which is not today, but on one day, we have 11.1 growing degree days. So maybe tomorrow we are going to have 11.5, and you keep adding those till you reach 200 growing degree days. Was that
Thank
clear?
you.
The person
So
that asked for that question.
Yeah, they didn't write anything else, so
the only
yes, she said yes.
Okay. Is there another question?
There is one here. I'm not quite so I'll read it to you. If I wanted to simulate green days, could I gather eggs and put them under a heat lamp to hatch the eggs?
Yes, but don't do that, please.
Don't
Yes,
do
of
that,
course.
please.
Of course, yeah. Well, if you do that, don't let them go away. I will recommend you to stamp of them. Don't. I'm gonna tell you why, and I think I have a. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna say at the end. But yes, you can do that because when you apply temperature lamp, you are increasing the temperature. So you will make them hatch earlier. In fact, when spiral lanternfly came to Virginia, there were some concerns about Christmas tree bringing spiral lanternfly egg masses into your house and they hatching. And it's because in the house is warmer than outside, correct? So the hatching will happen at 200 degree days, but sooner because it's indoor.
Okay. One last one, and you might discuss this in your slides coming up, but this question is, when you as a scientist find egg masses in the field, do you destroy them?
As a scientist? Well, now, yes, because we don't need them. But there are some scientists that are collecting, especially when they have been. Remember, I told you when spiral lanternfly hatches from an egg, you see an opening that is vertical, and if you see one that is circular, is because that egg was parasitized. So there are some researchers that are collecting egg masses, collecting insects, and insects that are having parasitized by the fungi. So in my case, I work with the farmers, so I will kill them. I don't let them on the fields, and sometimes it's a lot of it's a lot of work. But if you think that one female is gonna lay down about 3 egg masses, each egg mass is gonna produce about 50 individuals. So if I destroy that egg mass today, I will have about 3,050 individual less next year. And I didn't say 7,000 because what the research have found is half of the population may be females and half may be males. But imagine, today you destroy 50, it means 3,500 less next year. So I think if you see that way, especially for farmers, and here one of the main risks is wineries. So if the workers are trained and I work with them and they can identify egg masses, they will destroy them because they know that they can start lowering the population little by little. Although it's going to be extremely hard because they are going to come back every day, every moment from the surrounded forest. So as a homeowner, if I see it, and if I live in the area where especially there are wineries, and when I want to protect the industry, I will destroy them.
Thank
More
you.
questions? You're welcome. So here I have management. and the time of the year. So I'm just gonna be focusing on the right now on the eggs, but I will talk about just this talk about the management options that we have for the spiral lanternfly during the whole cycle. So we said don't move any life stage of spiral lanternfly, and that includes if you are in an area where spiral lanternfly has been identified or is in quarantine and they are in nymphal or a adult stage, please check your vehicles before leaving that area. They can hide anywhere in your vehicle, on your vehicle. The second is scrape and destroy the eggs. And initially the recommendation was to put it in a bag with alcohol. The truth is that if you do that, it takes you forever. So there is another way that with a credit card, you just scrape them off. I just use my hands or my finger, and that's what I do it. And then you can spray eggs with dormant oil or horticultural sprayed oil. There are some circle traps that we can use. However, I will explain something more about this on further in a further slide. And then we have a contact insecticide applications. We have systemic applications that also for the adults or nymphs and adults. So here is a recommendation of dormant or horticultural oil. And these are to be used during this season when they are on the egg stage. Um, don't use it when they are nymphs or adults. And what we said no, don't use it is because it's not gonna kill them, and you may kill your plants because the heat is gonna just fry the leaves or the branches of your the vegetative tissue of your plants. So don't use it when it's warm. So just use them on the egg masses. If you want to know more about this, please contact Loudoun County Extension Master Gardeners. And this is something that I always mention. So in order to control any type of pest, we need to use integrated pest management. And this is a triangle where the main part of this is the culture practices. In this case, culture practices, I will say, be careful or take care of your soil. When you have a healthy soil, you're going to have health. Go ahead.
Dislodge.
When you have healthy soils, you're going to have healthy plants. And what happens is spotted lanternfly is not going to kill our plants except grapes. There is not a lot of research because in Pennsylvania there are not many vineyards, but they have seen that they can kill vineyards if they are not treated. But what I said, spiral lanternfly is not going to kill most of the plants that we have in our environment. It's going to be another factor that is going to stress the health of the plants, but by itself, it's not going to kill it. So now with when we have now a lot of rain and then a lot of time without any rain, super dry, super hot. So those are situations that create stress on our plants. And then we have another factor that is creating more stress. That's when the plants start suffering, and you will see that eventually there are many trees that are dying. And then if you have another factor that is going to stress, well, they will certainly die, but it's not the one that caused that problem. So if you are starting to plant trees, have a healthy soil. A healthy soil means that it's a soil that is alive, and for that and learn more about that, you need to contact us. But having a healthy soil is going to create healthy plants that are going to have more nutrients, all type of nutrients, and they are going to resist more diseases and the attack of a different type of pest. And then when we start going up physical mechanical methods, so that will be like destroying the egg masses or covering our plants with with different type of nets. Then biological, we have the application of the release of predators like the wasp, which we cannot do right now that because it's under research. Also the fungi that can control it or is attacking it right now. And then we have the chemical control, which can be biorational or conventional. So as we go up on the pyramid, we are increasing the toxicity for the environment and for ourselves. So be very careful and reach out to us if you want to know more about controlling spiral lanternfly.
Beth, I have a question. Somebody was asking, will a commercial car wash spray be strong enough to remove?
To remove spiral lanternfly or egg masses?
They didn't specify.
Spiral lanternfly, yes. Egg masses, I'm not sure because usually egg masses are not gonna be on cars. I just seen them on the tires. Many people, when they go to infested areas, they go through a car wash before leaving that area. So yes, for adults, not sure about egg masses. I haven't read about that. I know that when you are shredding wood that is infested with egg masses, the shredding should be less than an inch. That way you can destroy them. But if it is a shred machine that shreds on like a 1 inch length, it's not gonna work.
Okay. And then I think this is just a comment, but somebody said healthy soil, but now we have Asian jumping worms in the state.
I know, yes. So there are so many things, but don't give up. Healthy soil can work because healthy soil also have all it's not just we have the microbes that can, that are adapted to our environment. And I know that the jumping worms eat like crazy and can, consume the organic matter that can feed other microorganisms. But keep doing that, and we can talk later about that, or it can be another topic that we can talk about.
Sounds good.
So I was talking about dormant oil or agricultural oil for control of egg masses. So this picture is it was taken under the electron microscope, and it's just one egg. Okay, so look at the egg and look at the pores that it has, and it's very cool. I like this, so I'm excited when I see this. So on the lower part is the body of the egg, and on the upper part is the door that opens when they hatch. So you can see it's just like a leaf type. So here you have the front hatch, and then you have the gap between the wall and the hatch. So you can start seeing, all these different layers, like proteins, wasps, so different materials. And then you have here part of the hatch, the space, and then the pores that are into the that are in the egg, outside the egg. So when we spray agricultural oil, we cover, even though they have the mud-like structure, mud-like substance, we can asphyxiate the egg that is in there, or the individual that is going to be hatching from that. And this is just one pore. So here you see many pores, and they need to breathe, they need oxygen. So here is one pore, and it's clear. So there is the exchange of CO2 and oxygen. So when we apply the oils, we block those, and then they are suffocated. It's cool, isn't it? So I was talking about, egg masses, where where to find them. And now we have this. And this is, the green area is the area that are height that we can usually see, okay? But then the majority of the spiral lanternfly and egg masses are going to be on the canopy. So more than just like about 30% is our size, eye height, and then all above that is where where we can find them, or mainly where they're gonna be. But as I said, don't give up, because if you destroy one egg mass today, it means 3,250 individual less next year, and then so on, because it's exponentially. So on this one is, you can see the distribution of the spiral lanternfly, and this is the new map from Cornell, and Cornell updates every month the distribution and appearance, infestation of spiral lanternfly. And why is this important? Well, we started with spiral lanternfly in 2014, and it was just 3 counties in Pennsylvania. Now it's 2023, and we have 12 states, and Pennsylvania is almost the whole state in quarantine. So, if we are more careful, we are not going to stop it, okay? But we can slow it down. And also, when we learn more, we can, we can start controlling the population as well. So in Virginia, we have, I just lost the count, but I think we have like 15 counties where spiral lanternfly has been identified. 12 of them, or 9, 1, 2, 3, and 10 or 12 are already in quarantine. And Loudoun County is going to be in quarantine, I think, this year. So that means that whenever you are in an area that you have an identified spiral lanternfly, you need to look at your car if you are going to travel before moving in out of that area. And also, for this, Virginia Department of Agriculture has a, a a program where people doing business in areas in quarantine, they have to be trained and they have to have a certification in order to slow down the distribution of it. So this is the map, October 27, 2022, here in Loudoun County, I'm sorry, Virginia. So the red ones are the ones that are in quarantine, and then the yellows are the ones that are lightly infested. Or the orange, I'm sorry, and the yellow is one individual found. So as you see, Loudoun County is already lightly or was already lightly infested. But as I said, this year we are going to be in quarantine. And Virginia Department of Agriculture is the one that is going to announce that. Usually they do it by the 3rd or 4th month of the year.
Maryland.
And here we have, this is the potential distribution of spiral lanternfly in the United States, and they use several factors. The first one is the distribution of the tree of heaven, which is the main host. Also, the production of the secondary host, which is not just the production, but also the distribution of wild grapes and the production of cultivated grapes. And the temperature. So these are the areas that have the high potential to host spiral lanternflies in the future. So this is everything I have for you. If you need more information about spiral lanternfly, Loudoun County has created a website which everything you need to know about spiral lanternfly, and you just Google loudoun.gov spiral lanternfly. As Virginia Cooperative Extension, we are always welcoming people interested in becoming volunteers like Becky. So if you want to be a volunteer, you can reach out to us, Loudoun Master Gardeners at vt.edu. Also, if you are not sure that this is spiral lanternfly, and like you saw, there are some egg masses that look like, so you can contact us as well. And also, if you want a speaker, you can reach out to Loudoun County Master Gardeners speaker at gmail.com. if we have more questions, please go ahead.
I have a question, Beth. Why is the Deep South not as susceptible to spotted lanternfly infestation when it is warmer with fewer freezes?
Let me go back to this one. Well, that part I'm gonna tell you, I'm not sure why it's not. I don't know if the Tree of Heaven is there, and Tree of Heaven is not needed for the reproduction of spiral lanternfly, but you know, I will answer that question. I will have to look at and see why it's not susceptible for spiral or for production or reproduction of spiral lanternfly.
Okay. I don't have any more questions right now. I did want to let people know that I'm recording this presentation, and I actually, while you were presenting, I went back and looked, and I have your previous recording from last year. So I will be posting both of those on the Loudoun County Public Library YouTube page. And I'll also be getting the links to Jean Fenwick, the Master Gardener Coordinator, for anybody that wants them. You'll have to give me a few days. It'll probably end up being next week. Be looking for it on the YouTube channel because it just takes a little bit to get it up there. And thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to be doing a whole series of Master Gardener programs this year. So keep your eyes out for the next one in February. And thank you, Beth and Becky. We appreciate you presenting.
You are very welcome. Thank you all and have a good night.